Okay, let's review this game. So the game started with French defense, c5 and knight f3. So the correct move is c3 because we want to support d4 with a pawn instead of a knight. And the reason is if black take our pawn, we can keep controlling the d4 square with a pawn. So these two pawns are connected. This is really important if we want to control the center. And when we play knight f3, and it's correct that black took the pawn, and now the e5 pawn is a little bit hanging. It's not totally hanging because isolated. I mean, it's not totally isolated because after f4, the pawn can still be protected by the f4 pawn, but it's a little bit also risky to push the f4 pawn because this diagonal is open and black can attack white king. So, I mean, after the exchange, the pawn structure of white is a little like destroyed. So, but on the other hand, the best move from black is play knight e7 instead of move the dark square bishop. I will explain why. And the next couple move from black is keep, for example, bishop d3, keep like exchange with the knight and attack e5. You can also play queen to c7 to keep attacking the center pawn. And after the exchange, for example, if I play f4, we can play queen b6. And the f4 pawn not only open up this diagonal, but also opening this one. So black can controlling this diagonal, which prevents white from castling. And the white king has to stay a while at the center, which is a little unsafe. So in this position, black is slightly better than the white. And the reason why I didn't recommend bishop c5 is the g7 pawn is very easy to be a weakness in the French defense. And the queen can go to g4 to attack g7. Because unlike some opening that black play e5, in French defense, the light square bishop cannot control g4. The knight is not easy to move to f6 to control g4. So it's easy for white to move the queen to g4 and attacking our g7. So we need to be very cautious. We need to calculate after bishop c5 how can we deal with like queen g4. And in this case, white can play queen g4, and the position favors white because how can we protect the g7? The best move is g6, but we will have weak dark squares and white can keep divided pieces. Later, maybe bishop g5 to attack the queen and keep controlling the dark squares. And it's a mistake that black take knight because white queen can capture the rook, and black has to sacrifice a bishop, and later queen f6, and white can play queen to g3, refuse to exchange queens because there are quite some open files at diagonals that the white queen can control. And since white has paired bishop and it's a quite open position, so white is better. But in this game, white play bishop e3. This is a little bit passive, but it's not big problem. Queen b6, and black want to attack b2. The b2 square is also weakness for white, but usually the case is when the black queen taking b2, the queen is deep inside the queen side. It's easy to be captured, and also the rook can counterattack at the b file. And the best move for white is knight c3. It's not easy to find, but we can go deeper. If white take the pawn, that's a blunder actually. And after knight b5, white is threatening a fork and also attack the bishop. And also b1, the queen is trapped. So there are 3 threats to black, and I don't think black can handle that well. For example, bishop e3, and white can trap the queen. So knight c3 is fine. Black will not take the pawn, and we can play knight a4 to trade with the bishop and later probably discover attack. So as I said, it's not easy to find. and we play b3. It's also make the pawn safe, but it's a little bit passive. And knight c3, knight takes. So now black is better because a lot of pressure. Black's adding on the knight and also on e5. So as I said, e5 square is e5 pawn is isolated, and the best move is bishop b5 to pin the knight, and later probably exchange with the knight to minimize the threat on our center. And in this position, white take knight, but it's turned out to be a mistake, because after bishop e3, that's a good move, and white will lose a pawn, and the pawn structure will be destroyed. Take the bishop, queen e3, check, and later black can take the pawn, but black can win the pawn as well. And I think white made another mistake, that is queen f3. That's a blunder, and black can just move the bishop to, for example, c5 or h6, just to make it safe, and the knight is trapped, and we can barely win the bishop. So if queen g3, hoping to attack g7, we can play g6. So we don't have to rush taking the knight, right? So yeah, but I would say the I like to highlight about the time control here. So the game has been played with like 8 rounds, but from the review we can see a lot of opportunities happening, and we also miss a lot of chances to basically maximize our advantage at the board. So we have 80 minutes at the start point from the game. So excuse me. So my point is, if you play opening that is you are not familiar with, or there are a lot of piece exchange like this at opening, whatever, maybe at middle game, if there are a lot of piece exchange happening, we need to spend time to calculate, to try to maybe win material or avoid losing material. This is super important. If we, for example, like this, if we lose a knight at the beginning, at the opening, the game is over. So we need to be very clear about that. And it's also the same for black. So if black didn't take the f2 pawn, black can win the knight, and the game is over. So spend more time, especially that's 80 minutes game. Okay, the game was turned into endgame, and both sides develop pieces. Castle, make king safe. H4, so black is better with up one pawn and also connected pawn structure. And the next question for black is, how can black expand its advantage or convert the advantage to win? And the question for white is, we need to defend attacking plan from black, because black is better than us, and we have to be aware, for example, e5 is a weakness, and also black is probably going to open up the files to to attack us, for example c4, c5, f6. So this is something we need to think ahead and think about a plan to defend it. So first of all, if I will play white, I will not play h4. Maybe I will move the rook to attack e5 or protect e5, and also maybe knight a4 to knight c5, because black doesn't have dark square bishop. So if we move our knight to c5, it's very hard for black to kick my knight out, and also the knight at c5 is really strong to control the pawn structure. h4, d4, c5, I think black's going to develop a big shot from this diagonal. And I think meanwhile it's a good opportunity for white to challenge center. We can create an isolated pawn, because after, push c3, if you take my pawn, I can take it back and the c5 pawn become isolated, and we can attack that, right? So probably you can win the pawn back. And if white doesn't exchange, like rook d8, we can take this pawn, and the d4 pawn become like isolated. And also we can open up open file. We can put our rook to c7, and that will be a very active rook. So my point is, for example, at this position, we need to think about, for example, what is the weakness from our opponent? Maybe a c5 is a weakness because it's backward pawn. Maybe we can attack that, but it's very hard to win the pawn if we only have a knight. So c3, we can create a weakness, right? Regardless, black take our pawn or not, we can create weakness. So this is something we need to learn. Knight f4, bishop b7, rook h3. I think white focus on attacking on the king side because moving the pawn to h4 and potentially want to maybe push the pawn, but I would say yeah, it's actually not easy to attack on the king side. And because we don't have queens, and also black has actually pawn majority at the king side. G4, knight f3, knight e3, yeah. So I think black took this opportunity to move knight to a very good space and attacking pawns. G5, yeah, the e5 pawn is a weakness. I think black did this right well to win another pawn. Exchange, rook c8, black's going to open up the files so the rook can attack c2. I think that's good. Knight e5, stop c4, this is good. Rook c7. It's not very clear of the purpose of this move, so I mean, we can either move bishop to d7 and keep pushing the pawn, or f6, that could also be a very good move to kick the center knight away and trying to open up this file. Because, I mean, we have a bishop, our opponent has a knight, so the more open the position is, the better result for black, or for the side that has a bishop. Because bishop is a long range piece. If we can make the position more open, it favors us. So rook c7, it's I don't quite see, it's not clear with the purpose, to be honest. Rook g1, check the king, it's okay, we want to put c4. Okay, so black open up the c file, I think that's good, and later we can double the rooks. G6, take, and black has opened up the f file. I think that's good for black. So the rook is being active, and we can utilize these two rooks together. So can we just move rook to f2? Rook d3 is a blunder because the h3 rook will be captured. King might go to e1, and we can retake h7, king h8. So this is actually a very good defensive position. Our king can be placed in front of the pawn, and g7 is also blocking this path, and also we can threaten winning a rook. So for example, rook f1, we can play rook c1. If you go to e2, I mean d3 is interesting. Can we play here? Go up, rook c3 here, and we can win a rook. Or yeah, we can win a rook, or yeah, or turn the game into endgame, and black is winning because black have up 3 pawns. So yeah, so here black play h6. It's not a big problem, but maybe it will slow down our attacking. So same comment, and I think we have spent a little time for both sides. Just a couple of minutes we spent, right? So I think the game is very complicated. We need to spend more time to calculate. Rook e1, but how can we defend rook f2? And also the problem is that we cannot move the king up if we rook f2, because rook c3 will lose this rook. So maybe we can move the rook to a3 to attack a7 and also make it safe. Because now if you check me, I can move the king up. If you take, So don't make your king at the back rank. It's super dangerous. So make it upward, it's better. And we can take e7, we can attack the black king. Rook e1, check, that's a good move. Rook e6, a2, king e1. This is a very interesting move. So it's a lure. It's making like illusion that if black move the rook to g2, black can mating one. But I think this f2 row should have a be a defensive piece as well because of the background. Yes. So how can we solve this problem? We can actually, I mean, we can move the rook to here, or f6 also work, or let's see, if I force a trade, rook e8, offer another trade, and if you trade, I'm happy with that. But if you don't trade for the rook to e8, I can probably, I'm thinking, so I think black should solve this kingside problem first and move the rook to f6, and then we can take the rook. Yeah. So I think black should be mindful about the threat from white. If we can remove the g6 pawn, I think we can use our rook like more easily. Rook f2. So if white, for example, rook to d3, we can move rook, or maybe we can exchange the rook like this. No, it's a checkmate. Rook d3 is a blunder. Rook a3, and we can exchange the rooks. Yeah, so we have up 3 pawns. I think black is in this position. It's not hard for black to win. So we need to be very cautious about the counter attack from opponent. Even though we look better, king fa. Yeah, king fa is not good because after rook b3, we still need to move the king backward. I think rook 8 b2. Yeah, that's a good move. Offer a trade. Rook d3. Oh, yeah, I think black is trying to check the king, but ignore the potential threat from these files. So I'm still thinking offer exchange is a good choice. If you don't take my rook, I will take your g6 pawn. If you take, if you take this one, I can take this one. g6. And black has up 2 pawns, and also the position of the king is way better than the white king. The pawns can block the rook and keep pushing. So black is winning. So if you check my king, I can move the king here. If you go here, and I can, for example, I can threat a checkmate, but I can also move king to g4. If you check, move king to here. If you go here, I can keep pushing pawns. And if you move rook to go back, king f4, e3, yes. We can use the rook here, because as long as our rook is a second rank, the white king cannot move up, and we can pushing this 2 pawn with the rook and the king. If you want to move here in f4, if you check, we can go here. Check here. Trading rook is not a good idea. If you check, f3. So basically we can use the pawn as a shield and also moving forward. And also, of course, we have another rook. And the rook king cannot go in. If you go down here, check, and we will have a queen. Yeah, it's not hard to win in these end games.